Good evening, everyone, and welcome to day 398 back from Mexico and rolling again with our updates. I want to thank you for being here tonight. Really got a special treat for you. I've got a special guest with me, Blake, and not an American. Where are you from?
Australia.
We've got an Aussie in the house tonight, and not only that, this Aussie married into a Ukrainian family. You're expecting a baby here soon, or it just happened?
Just happened already 6 weeks
That's
ago.
right, 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
They're coming
They're on their way.
and relocating here to the United States. So we've got new friends here. But I thought it was special. Earlier, I was chatting with Blake, and he started giving some really good insight into Ukraine. I said, hold it, don't say anything else. Would you be willing to go on my stream tonight and just give your thoughts as an Aussie, because you know what you're doing. You're a professional, you're an airline pilot, and it'll be very interesting to get a few of your takes. Before we jump into that, though, this is day 398. I want to thank you for being here. Make sure you continue to like, comment, subscribe, give. You know, every dime, every penny gets to the front. Hit the Amazon list, join the Patreon, all the things that we talk about. Thank you for being a part of that. Now, over the last 24 hours, 2 major airstrikes. They were with Shahed drones, the first one in Kyiv. Some were taken out by air defense, some hit targets. We do have wounded, and we have lost property. That's in Kyiv. The same story is told also in Dnipro. Those 2 cities were the places of major hits over the last 24 hours. Additionally, you guys know, and Blake and I are going to talk about this in just a moment, the front line that rages all the way from up the north, from outside of Kharkiv, down through the Donetsk region, over towards Zaporozhye, all the way wrapping around to Kherson. It's not changing. There are pushes and pulls and things adjust, but it's ugly. It's horrible warfare. And the word that caught my attention, he stated earlier, was a chess word. It was a stalemate, but we'll get to that in just a moment. Today on the nuclear front, we've been hearing lots of things. Russia putting the ability for tactical nuclear weapons onto the property of Belarus, which, in case you were wondering, is actually Russian proxy now. Yeah, they have a president, a dictator there with Lukashenko, but it's Russia. Today, the United States stopped sharing nuclear data with the Russian military and government. I want to repeat that for you again. In fact, probably 12 hours ago or so, or this morning, I received a message from Ricochet, and he says, man, it sure seems like we're headed to the Cold War again. And we were chatting back and forth on Patreon. It does, but today, the United States stopped sharing nuclear data with the Russian military. Folks, that is not good. That is not a good thing there. Additionally, Iran, Israel, Syria, North Korea, of course, China, Europe, the nations in Europe, most of which are pro-Ukraine, a couple of stragglers which are not, such as Hungary. It's ugly. We're so close, not only to a Cold War again. We're in a Cold War. It's just the beginning of it. But we also have a hot war, and it's very ugly, and we're this close to that war expanding. Good news from Britain, also Germany. I get a lot of heat when people get mad at me, and I say, thank you, Germany, for you gave us 70 machine guns. And then I get the hate. Well, at least it was 70. It's nothing. But we got some Leopard 2s on Ukrainian territory. That's a fact. And additionally, the UK has delivered Challenger 2 tanks. They are on Ukrainian soil. There's other United States equipment there that's coming in. But I want to focus on the Challenger 2s. In fact, Reznikov dropped a video talking about the Challenger 2s. So tonight, Great Britain, thank you for your support and getting this equipment to the front line. Take a peek at this video. once again, thank you there to Great Britain. Additionally, you can see it brings joy to the Ukrainians, Reznikov, the video that they put out saying thank you. Those tanks are lined up and the flags are waving on them. What a cool video. So thank you to Great Britain. I can tell you also the last thing, and then I'm going to start chatting with Blake here, is this. Today, Russian propagandists in Moscow on multiple platforms. But of course, it's Solovyov, of course, it's Margarita, and it's all the other nut jobs there. But I remind you, they're not nut jobs. They're brilliant. They're highly, I know the stuff that comes out of their mouth is trash, but this is their job. They are the spokesperson. They're the mouthpiece. They're paid highly and heavily for pushing this propaganda and evil message out of the Kremlin. Today, basically threatening the entire world, specifically London, Warsaw, Poland, Washington, D.C., Paris, France, Rome, Italy. We're going to drop nuclear weapons on you. Here we go again, folks. It seems like we are coming out of World War II, coming into that Cold War era all over again. But it is nonstop. I shared on the Patreon today a video of the propaganda. And you just have to understand, it's on 24/7. It's on every channel. Wherever you are at right now in your world, whatever country you're in and wherever you're watching, you watch TV, I'm sure, or media, internet, whatever you do. Maybe you have a favorite television show. Maybe you have a favorite news source that you read on your phone or tablet or computer. Could you imagine living in a nation that 24/7 on every channel is propaganda, non-stop? Eventually, probably it would become easier to believe it.
Yeah.
Once you hear it 24/7. So that's where we're at. So Blake, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks.
And as we said, you're an airline pilot relocating to the United States. So welcome to the U.S.
Thanks.
Interesting story about you, though. You have a Ukrainian wife and family.
Yeah. I married a Ukrainian. Before that, when I joined the airline that I was with previously, I was living in Hong Kong, so essentially China. But one of my best mates was Ukrainian who joined with me. And before I married my now wife, who's Ukrainian, I went to Ukraine. And it was immediately probably top 2 countries I've ever been to in my life. The people, the food, it was just incredible.
What year were you in the Ukraine?
2017.
So you were in Ukraine in 2017, of course. It had been a beautiful time, pre-war. So let's start here. Can you just pay witness? Did you see any Nazis or fascists?
No, the opposite. They were some of the warmest people I've ever come across. They wanted to know you. They wanted to know where you were from. They were welcoming. The country itself was visually beautiful. So all this stuff that's coming out for the reasons why Putin wanted to invade, for people who had been to Ukraine, just didn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, we know the truth. And, you know, I've worked there for 26 years, and I know Ukraine. I love Ukraine, and I know the Ukrainian people, and that's why this is, you know, our church. Now you've moved here, you become a part of the team. You're going to become you may have to become a monthly co-host on PG and Aussie. But it's just, for us that know Ukraine, this is hellacious.
Yeah, it is.
It's pure evil to think that the world could even swallow this and believe it, and unfortunately, half of the world is.
Yeah, well, there's mouthpieces even in the States that are parroting what Putin and his cronies want. So it's just bizarre, to be honest.
So as an Australian, you're moving here, and you've only been here a little while.
Yeah.
You're starting to hear some of the American media. Did it surprise you that you're even hearing a little bit of what?
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's always a good thing that you move to a country where both sides are allowed to have a voice, but there comes to a point where you look, well, it's not true what you're saying, so why do you keep saying it? So
Correct.
It was surprising.
Definitely a bigger play here in place. Now, we were talking earlier about the stalemate. We look at the war, and you know the map. So you've been there, and you see this line, and you know we have a map behind us, and you were just asking where had I been in Ukraine, and I said, well, all of it. All the front lines. And I keep sharing with people that the front lines, and even tonight on the early part of the update, the front lines just aren't moving.
Yeah.
It's just being decimated, square by square by square, complete scorched earth policy. But as the war progresses, and now I want to ask you an Australian question. Today, and I'm not even sharing this, but Dmitry Peskov, who is the official Kremlin spokesman, came out and made a statement that we are fully expecting this war to go for years. We want this to be a war of attrition. We want this to go long. And of course, it's logical for them because the longer the war goes, people lose interest, people lose sight, life goes on. For me personally, I have to make effort daily to keep the updates going, to share, to keep the mission out there because it's dragging on. For Australia, and you've been your nation has been wonderful, supporting the truth, telling the truth, supporting with different finances and technicals for Ukraine. But as the war drags on, what are you hearing or learning?
Yeah, it's a bit of a funny situation. Australia has almost no connection to Ukraine, and yet they were one of the first ones to stand up because we kind of recognise the threat that Russia plays, and that actually comes from the Malaysian airliner that was shot down because there was a lot of Australians in that jet. So we understood that there was Russian-backed separatists that were responsible for that, and we essentially got away from it.
Pause. So this is so interesting. Malaysian, it was shut down over Ukrainian sovereign territory by Russian separatists who were backed by Russia. Russia shot it down. So you're telling me there were a lot of Aussies on that?
Yeah, I think second largest contingent.
So that's stuck in y'all's brain.
Yeah.
Oh, where else are you going to get this stuff? That's stuck in your brain. So when this war broke out, you're going, we know the truth. So now, 2023.
Yeah, so, Australia was great. They gave Bushmasters, which is our kind of large mobile troop carrier, which we had in Afghanistan and Iraq for many years, and we gave them straight to Ukraine. Financial aid, we took in a lot of Ukrainian refugees, including my wife and her family. So they've been great on that front. But as it's turned into a stalemate, Australia's like the US with a 24-hour news cycle. If something new doesn't pop up, it kind of filters away into the background. And I've had a lot of friends come up to me knowing that my wife's Slav is Ukrainian. They're like, hey, what's going on over there? What's happening now? Because they're just not hearing about it.
Yeah. I was down in Mexico. I just returned late last night. And it was interesting. I was there speaking at an event, picking up my daughter, and meeting a lot of professional, well-educated people. And they told me straight out, we support Ukraine. 100%. We know that this is wrong, that they're being attacked, that this is genocide. But Greg, we hear nothing. If it wasn't for your stream, which we watch, or the occasional news that we can get from across the border, the US, and that's random, we would know nothing about Ukraine. So as the war goes on, we go back to Peskov saying, we want it to go a long time.
Well, it's funny you say that. My older brother, he was in the Australian military, and then he left and became basically private company man and went into Iraq with the American military and in Afghanistan. So what he did was he set up a lot of logistics in terms of their waste management system, their scrap metal industry. He talked to governments there to set up after the war and during the end game of the war. And I asked him, what's the timeline from your perspective and your work experience? And he straight off hand said a decade. And that includes, the rebuild effort, little things. He said, you're going to go in country when and if the war ends, and you'll have mines and unexploded ordnance and no infrastructure. So he goes, it's just a long time.
I know you've probably not seen a lot of my streams because we're just getting, to know each other, but I've been in the minefields.
Oh, my family watches it all the time.
Well, great. I've been in the minefields, and you're right. So today, Ukraine is the #1 mined territory in the world. They've passed Afghanistan, they've passed all the others with the amount of territory that's mined. Not only will they continue to do it as Russia passes through, they're literally slinging the mines. But additionally, they're firing ordnances in, and these look like a little missile, but they're actually little capsules on it, and they're not designed to explode. Upon impact, they sling mines everywhere. So when you drive through, for example, the M3 highway, and these guys know it, and you're driving from Izum down toward the hot zone of Donetsk on the front lines, and you look out in the fields, you see hundreds of these missiles sticking in the ground. I call them missiles, but ordnances sticking in the ground, and the capsules are open, and it's nothing but hundreds and thousands and thousands and thousands of mines everywhere. When this war began, Zhenya, my partner, and I, we were on doing an interview. I was just doing another regular little update stream talking about current events and things. And that was the moment the missile flew. And he said, Greg, we just were hit by a missile from Russia. And from that day, we made a commitment to support Ukraine. And now you see what we've done together and partnered together. But we, and he's full Ukrainian, expected the war to last a week. 2 weeks at the beginning. And now, if you were to ask him, and I'll have him on here soon, he's on rest right now. We were going so hard. He's with his family in Netherlands. But if we were to ask him, he would say, okay, 3 to 5 years.
Well, and like I said to you before, we were talking about the stalemate, and it's such a weird word to throw out there, but Ukraine has an opportunity if the war goes the way it should go with backing from the West and the rebuild effort. The thing with the rebuild effort after World War II with the Marshall Plan and the states spearheading that is everyone was affected by World War II, so everyone was kind of in on it. With the Ukrainian-Russian war, it's losing people's attention. So my fear is that the rebuild effort won't have the same effect. You need that Marshall Plan to come in from Western Europe, from the United States, economically and militarily to build Ukraine up.
You were asking, it surprised you earlier when I told you I was in Bakhmut. You went, what? Okay. Not just Bakhmut, but all the frontline places we're at. And I'm just going to suggest this to you. It's not possible to be rebuilt. It will have to be raised and started over. There's nothing left. It is apocalyptic. And I know that much of World War II was like that in places, but you make a great point. World War II, Poland was destroyed, Germany was destroyed, France was destroyed. All these Baltic states, where everything was destroyed. So every nation had a vested interest to work together to rebuild. The only thing that's destroyed right now, other than a random drone strike in Russia, is Ukraine.
Well, people forget that before the war, Ukraine was actually rising up the GDP per capita rankings, and Russia was actually going the other way. And before COVID, actually, and before the war, Russia lost, I think, 1 million of its population due to immigration, aging, mortality rates, GDP per capita decreasing. So they were becoming weaker and Ukraine was actually becoming stronger. So this actually plays into Putin's hands to destabilize.
A massive reversal, but that is why the nations need to stand together. And we'll see. Blake, thank you. This was awesome, brother.
Thanks, mate.
I'm going to have to get you back on here.
Slava Ukraine.
Get on Slava. I've got a partner with an Australian accent. Hey, make sure you share and like and comment and do all those things. Great insight here, and much appreciated. So, Blake, thank you.
Thank you.
And of course, you have something to say. You've been there. You're married into the culture, so you have a lot to say, and you've got a lot of knowledge there, evidently. So, thank you very much. Big thank you to Blake. And as always, guys, we thank you for being here. Thank you for all that you do. And we'll see you again in 23 hours. Be blessed. Good night.